there's a question that Paul also talked about, the role of government. And coming back to what Madam Mukomen said, I think in any country, the role of government is to provide the enabling environment. And that means a lot of things. It cannot be discounted that Nigeria is a difficult place to do business for so many reasons. It cannot be discounted that transparency is a gap in Nigeria. It cannot be discounted that the information is not being harnessed for us to be able to make better informed decisions. And I'll use my example, an example of Switzerland, to illustrate some of these things that she's mentioned. I remember one time I needed to order something on a website in Switzerland. And after getting to the checkout, I thought I was going to be asked to use my card details to pay. And as soon as I clicked on proceed, I just got a confirmation, transaction completed, without me paying. And 3 days later, the item was delivered to my house. And when the item was delivered, the parcel contained a bill with the seller's bank details for me to do the transfer and make the payment. And I was shocked. So the goods were actually delivered and I hadn't paid for it. And I was thinking to myself, that would never be a scenario that I would be used to as a Nigerian. But lo and behold, the way things work in Switzerland is, if I don't pay that money within a specific amount of time, the seller would go to their local government office and make a report and submit the invoice for what they sent to me along with the confirmation of delivery, and then say that I owe them. And then the local government office of the seller would get in touch with the local government office where I live, and the local government office where I live will send me a warning letter saying I should come and either pay this money or come and explain to them at the local government office why I cannot afford to pay that money. And if I go and explain to them why I cannot afford to pay that money, that would be in effect declaring myself bankrupt, and I would not be eligible for credit anymore. Now, why would such a system work? Because the Swiss government can track information about each and every person, whether they are citizens or not, living in the country. Another example, I was watching a TV program of a guy who went to China, and he was talking about within 3 days of his arriving in China, he crossed the street when the stop sign was still on. And because there was no car coming, he felt he could cross the street. Within minutes of him crossing that street when the pedestrian stop sign was still on, he got a message, a fine on his WeChat. Now, WeChat is the Chinese equivalent of WhatsApp. This is not a Chinese citizen. This is a foreigner who arrived the country 3 days before. And he was given a fine for breaking the law of crossing the road in the wrong manner, and that he had to pay. Within minutes, he paid with the WeChat. So the point there is, if we don't have information, we cannot make informed decisions. It's plain and simple. And that is where the government's role comes in. Unfortunately, I think there are still gaps in the government trying to solve some of these challenges, not for the want of trying, but the second thing we all need to ask ourselves as Nigerians is, what have we been used to? And I speak for myself. There's so many things moving from Nigeria to the UK that I have had to unlearn and relearn as regards my consumption attitudes. And there's so many things I've also have to unlearn and relearn as a result of moving to Switzerland. And so the truth is, we all need to accept that there are cultural shifts that need to happen for us to be able to accelerate us as individuals. Because I remember somebody said to me that followers get the leaders that they deserve. And I thought, at first, when I first heard that statement, I thought that it was a very harsh statement. But upon reflection, I've come to accept that it is true. Followers do get the leaders that they deserve. And so we all need to ask ourselves, what kind of life am I leading in my personal life? Because the aggregation of our individual choices translates into the way society becomes and the way we become governed. Now, putting that aside, I think each one of us, we've talked about different challenges. And one of the things I've had to learn since moving out of Nigeria is to view challenges as an opportunity. And so I ask myself, if somebody is talking about a challenge, is that an opportunity for me to solve that challenge? Because if I can solve that challenge, guess what? I'm potentially creating wealth for myself, And I've seen this with companies like MTN, who came into Nigeria, solved the challenge of telecoms, and they are reaping. I've seen this with people like Mike Adenuga, who saw that opportunity, they tapped into it. You see people like Dangote, and it's easy for us to, in quote, hate on those people because they control certain things. But the truth is, they saw a challenge, they took advantage, they solved the problem, and they're getting the reward. You see people like Alibaba, the Nigerian comedian. I have nothing but respect for him. And I will tell you a story. When I used to work in GT Bank in Nigeria in 1998, we had to have an end of the year party. And we invited him to come and compare. And when we told him how much we were willing to pay, he just looked at us and said, we can't afford him. And he said, not to worry. He brought out a book and gave us the name of Yibo Koko, another comedian who was at that time below his grade. And he said, look, Yibo Koko can take this money and he will do a good job. Alibaba was comfortable in his ability to earn an income as a comedian, to not think that every job should be his. And a lot of comedians in Nigeria today, with no government support, owe him their success. And he's created an industry, but he had that vision to see a problem and create a solution for it. So I think each one of us owe it to ourselves to begin to think the different things that we see as challenges. In our own little way, what can we do? A few years ago, I saw a problem of collecting cash in Nigeria to pay for digital services. I created a company called Beyond Branches, and a few friends of mine, we went together, we connected to the InterSwitch platform. We didn't have a contract, it was just a friendly conversation. They allowed us to connect. 18 months later, InterSwitch came, they bought us out. There's a new company called InterSwitch Financial Inclusion Services, which I am on the board on today. Thank God for that. But it was because I saw an opportunity. I've had a few thousands saved in my account in NatWest in the UK. I invested in it. Just as I was about to run out of money, InterSwitch came and bought me out. The business is a bigger business today. I could have lost my money. I could have put my money in the stocks and lost it. There's no guarantees in life, but the reality is, if we don't take chances, we probably won't succeed. So each one of us owe it to ourselves to think, how can I be a personal change agent for better? And if that combination of change begins to work, we will be amazed at the outcomes we will see.
Thanks, Greg. That was very good. What Greg is saying is that challenges for us is opportunities in the making. And Greg has given examples of how he did it personally. He's also given example of MTN and Glo. And also, he's also talked about the rule of law in China and in Switzerland. There's the ability, it's the harnessing of information and also tracking of it to be able to make it work. So he's talked about that. Uju, I will let you speak now. And the next person I also call will be M, who will give her experience of doing business and projects in Nigeria. Uju.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I will agree that the major barrier to anything that you want to do back home, and which paints Nigeria as a very difficult place to do business, is the lack of information flow. And the fact that, yes, it's not a very transparent or honest ecosystem that you have to deal with. But I think, as we say, and I think Greg just alluded to it, there's no gain without risk. And I mean, while I'm not advocating that you take your pension pot and invest it in Nigeria, it's important that we're willing to take a chance, you know, with for our country, because that's important. Now, there were a few questions around, you know, I've had my fingers burnt. I dealt with the professionals. I lost my money. There was no recourse. There was nowhere to go. While I don't want to hold, I don't want to hold court for Nigeria and the regulators in there, I do want to say that there is a lot of improvement, and there is a listening ear, both from the central bank, from the SEC, which is a regulator for investments and fund managers, and for even for the from the institutes, or I'm thinking of the word now, what are they called? The trade groups that support the professionals in Nigeria. So part of the problem, I think, is that this information is not readily available. So you have no way of knowing how to seek redress if there's a problem. But on a general note, I would advise to stick with professional, recognized brands. I know that there are bad eggs, and I think I threw that in the chat. There will always be bad eggs in any industry who give everybody else, you know, put some egg on our faces. But the truth is, there are more professionals in Nigeria who want to do their jobs properly and who are fully certified, equipped, trained, and committed to ensuring that you achieve whatever financial objectives you do have. Now, transparency is a challenge of us all, okay? And I don't know if it's culture, is the water, the air, or what it is about us in Africa, but we don't believe in telling everything, you know. It's like it gives you an undue advantage. So we need you to depend on us. And so we provide you in bits. And I think that's something that we're also working on. But what I want to say is, the crop of professionals that we have right now in Nigeria who head financial institutions or who head government parastatals that liaise with the people in diaspora and international institutions and the development organizations are real core professionals who I think I believe in. They are colleagues of mine, and the people who I know will put the benefits, right, to the citizen above any greed or anything else. Now, we've said here that it's the role of the government to provide an enabling environment, but where that is not available, it is then the role of the professionals and those who have a deep sense of nation building to then make a change.
For the few people that I heard, I can pick up on so many pain points, challenge points, but just to kind of give you a little bit of my background, I'm a UK Nigerian diaspora, born, bred, brought up in London, set up my own regeneration company in 2001, and did a lot of work in urban areas in London. Worked with government, worked with local government, and was involved in many local enterprise development schemes. And how I met Isosa and Nigeria Magazine was we did an event during 2012 Olympics where we ran the largest B2B event where we were promoting investment opportunities for the diaspora back home in Africa. And one of my proudest achievements was the fact that that B2B event was funded entirely by Nigeria. And I got my funding from a very forward-thinking Nigerian businessman from Courtville Business Solutions. And I will always mention him and big him up because he's been my hero. And for someone that saw past my Londonness and thought, okay, there's an opportunity here, and being those people that should advocate for change, he was the one that sponsored our event. And from there, as someone who was promoting investment opportunities in sub-Saharan Africa, in West Africa, it became strange, and many people will be looking at me and say, but Em, have you worked there? Have you even worked in West Africa before? And no, I hadn't. So 10 years ago, picked up, moved to Ghana, and is still now working in Ghana and Nigeria now, doing development work. And my experience is varied. I've had ups and downs, as many of you might imagine. I had the good fortune of working for a Pan-African organization that supports local governments. So I managed to see the detail of working with local governments in Africa, ranging from, and it was across the whole continent. It was a mixed experience, but it was a necessary one for me. It was a very important learning curve because, as many of you can imagine, if you're advocating to work and support and invest in a place, it's very important to know the market and know the market well. So my experience was, I understand how local governments work, and the agency I worked for was really about touching on Uju's point, advocating with local governments around policy development. And as Uju said, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you still have to push. We still have to push for change. I mean, I don't want to sit and criticize my country. I don't want to sit down and criticize West Africa. Every country has its challenges. Every country has its woes, but the opportunities and potential is huge. And my passion for development and change is something that keeps driving me no matter how many times I get battered down. And that happens regularly, believe me. But you have to brush, get up, and start again. Currently, what I'm working on, and it's interesting to hear, is around remittances. Now, remittances, as you all know, is something that's being harped on a lot about in terms of its contribution to development. And one of the things also picked up on is the level of information that's available that will support us to push for remittances and how we use remittances for development. I think, again, Uju said it, we don't have access to information. One of the biggest challenges we have is, how do we inform the sector? How do we inform the diaspora about how remittances are being spent, the motivation and the challenges that we have to remit, and what the remittances are used for? Again, I give an example only of my parents. I can say, with my parents and my family, we always remit at least £400 a month to our families back home in Nigeria. And one of the things we always complain about is, where does this money go? How can we track this money better? How can we influence how remittance money is spent? And currently there's a number of research programs going on with, I don't know if people have heard of IFAD, who have just done a call for some research. And one of the partners that we're working with is hopefully, if they win, will get some research money to clearly explore the challenges that the diaspora have for remitting money now, and look at some of the solutions that we have, particularly in terms of product. You know, we have a number of products out there. The telcos have products, you know, the Western Unions of the world, etc. But how do we create remittances products that can be directed towards, for example, health insurance, school fees, and all those types of activities to help shape? And there's a number of programs, a number of private sector businesses that are doing this, and are doing this fantastically. So how can we develop more of those types of products to use, so we can use our remittances to develop our communities further? And, you know, hopefully we're working ourselves on a number of projects at the moment, in investment projects for such activities. You know, I won't talk too much. I just wanted to share some of my experiences of working in Africa and working with local governments. As a woman, I've struggled. I'm not going to lie, because gender is not so much in business. Women are making it, women are doing it in business in terms of Nigeria. The women are up there, they're doing their stuff and they're doing extremely well. But when you look at government, the story is different. The story is very different. And then when you even look at local government, the story is even bleaker. So one of the things I advocate for is about women in local government, women in politics, and ensuring that, or trying, it's not no easy task, to advocate for change. Just as Uju said, she said it so well. It's like the policies have been there for years. You have to dust them. They don't even know what those policies are when you ask them. Okay, what policies, for example, I'm doing something on the music sector, how music and culture contributes to development. Then you ask the question, okay, what policies do we have that can support this cultural ecosystem? What programs do you have that can say, hey, they look at you like you're speaking another language. And then when you say, okay, then there are organizations here that can sit with you to look at policies that will support the enabling environment. They're not interested. They're not interested. The chairman is just say, okay, where can I go and visit? Where can I go and do some development cooperation? I want to come to London, or I want to go to China. I need to shop. This happens everywhere, but sometimes we have to mix and blend these things. You know, we understand that people want experiences, want to travel, but the 80-20 rule, you know, there has to be something that filters down to support the development on the ground. You know, there has to be something that happens where our policies are relevant, and our policies can actually impact on the lives of young people, on women, on all of these things. And advocating is so important. And this is where me as a diaspora person will try. There's no money in it for me, but we have to try and use our networks and use our influencers to try and change this environment, so for the better. We can't stop because it's hard. That's not for me. That's not why I picked up and went. I knew it would be hard, but it's about sticking to an objective. And my passion for my country, my passion for development, my passion for change will always be the thing that drives me forward. And in the tiny little minutiae ways that I can make change is what I hang on to. And the people that I meet in these kind of contexts and environments like this, Isosa has been amazing, and the Nigeria magazine has been amazing. Meeting and learning from people like yourselves is what drives me and what I learn from, and hopefully can try and put more of those things in place to see change happening on the ground. So for me, that's all. Thank you for inviting me to say a few words, Isosa, and thank you for the panelists and all the participants that are taking part here and sharing. Thank you.